What is going on, my YouTube family? It is your boy Zeri, and we are here today to talk about a little top 10. I love making top 10 lists. It usually gets everybody fired up, but top 10 lists, super subjective, right? This is my opinion and my opinion alone, but what we're going to break down for the top 10 today is the top 10 Legendary Champion Ascensions in the game. And what I did to make this list is I went through all 28 Legendary Champions in the game, and I read their ascensions. What makes them top 10? Well, to me, it completely changes the way that character would play. Now, let's take a Valeria, for instance, right? She's not in the top 10. You ascend her, you get a 50% chance to add defensive down 2. Great move. But it's only a 50% chance. I'm looking for something that's going to that's guaranteed to happen to make this character play like a different champion. So, like I said, I read all 28 of them, went through them. I included Brand the Brilliant in this list as well. Spoiler, he did not make the top 10. But again, these are my top 10. Let me know down in the comments below what you think of the top 10. Did I leave anybody off? Do you disagree with me? Have I played with all these champions? Yes. But there's a caveat. A lot of it was from beta. So, could be a different story now, but just reading them off paper, with my experience in the game now and in beta, this is my list. So let's get started. Coming in at number 10 is Tia. Now let's take a look at Tia's ability. Unascended, a Tia applies Frostbite to an enemy for 2 turns at the end of the enemy's turn, and at 5 stacks is applied Frozen. Now, you send her, it's Frostbite 2. You're getting negative 20% speed, and then instead of having to have 5 stacks of Frostbite, you only need to have 4. That makes them frozen. The target is unable to act and takes 50% damage from all sources. Attacks on this target have a 50% chance to remove this effect. But getting to that frozen quicker while taking down speed, allowing people to not lap them but move in front of them, means your slower team members have a chance to get ahead of that damage and knock out somebody before they attack. Getting that ascended on Tia, getting that frozen off earlier to Frostbite 2 is why she comes in at number 10. Coming in at number 9. Recently nerfed Poison, but Gangelo. I think that's how you say it, but I'm going to stick with it. So let's take a look. This one's very, very easy. Poison deals damage based on max health at the end of the turn. So, his unascended trait is all enemies take 50% more damage from poison. His ascended trait is 100% more damage. You're giving your team 50% more damage from poisons. That is massive. It changes not only his composition, but it also changes your whole team composition. Anybody who's putting out poisons is getting this effect, and I think it's just wonderful. I don't need to go into much more than that. Number 9, Gangelo. Coming in at number 8, I have Abandon. Now, Abandon I haven't used in soft launch, but he was used for me a lot in the open betas, or closed betas, whatever they were. But let's take a look. Soul Reaper. Unascended attacks reduce all cooldowns by 1 turn per negative status effect on the target. Right? But you ascend this ability, attacks reduced all cooldowns by 1 per negative status effect on the target. Attacks deal bonus damage based on the number of negative effects on the target. Soul Reaper goes with this ascension. That move, Ascended, takes Abandon to a whole nother level. I think it is a great ascension. It takes him to an okay damage dealer in the guild boss, on the dungeon bosses, to an out-of-this-world damage dealer. You have to think. You pair him with poison and burns and everything else, defensive downs, anything you can stack while you're trying to down this boss, he's just benefiting from. You really put him on a negative effect team, and he's just going to crank the damage, but it's got to be done over time. So he's like that boss champion, and he's still pretty good because he's reducing the cooldown of his cooldowns for all of his moves by 1 per negative status effect on the target. But then you add the bonus damage on. Really takes Abandon to another level. So number 8, Abandon. Coming in at 7, we have Valeria. Now, Valeria, I chose her as my soft launch champion, and her trait before Ascension on Pleasure and Pain reduces all abilities cooldowns by 1 turn upon the death of an enemy. Well, you ascend her, and it reduces all ability cooldowns upon the death of any unit. That is a big, big difference. So if you, especially in PvP, or the guild boss, right, or dungeons, you lose a champion, but it's on your team, before the Ascension, it does nothing. You know, and you really want her to get to her ultimate ability. A lot of champions you do, right, but hers is just super devastating. It's one of her best moves. So you want to get her there. So reducing the ability from just an enemy to any unit on the battlefield is a massive change in how you can play her, and it's really game-changing for Valeria. Coming in at 6, Hector. Hector's one is super simple, but it just makes him devastating. Much like Abandon. Unascended, Berserker's Wrath, 25% max damage. Ascended, 50% max damage. So you're getting an extra 25% damage. It makes up for bad gear. It makes up for if you can't get glyphs. It's going to bump his overall damage per hit and just make him be able to one-shot some people. It is huge. And Hector, before the Ascension, at least when I played him in beta, before the Ascension, he was hitting okay. You get him ascended and you just notice the difference. The crits are insane. You stack him with crit rate, crit damage, and that max damage just goes through the roof. For that extra 25% is huge. I don't need to say more. You're definitely going to notice the difference with an ascended Hector versus an unascended Hector. Top 5, here we go. Cirrus is at number 5 for me. And what I like about this is every 2 turns, unascended, this character's ability attacks 1 extra target at the end of the turn. You get her ascended, it's happening all the time. But every 1 turn, this character's ability attacks 1 extra target at the end of the turn. So, more damage every single time. Every 2 turns, it's okay, it helps, but every turn you're getting that extra bonus attack. It changes the way you play Cirrus. She does really good damage already. Getting an extra turn out of her all the time is massive. That's why she comes in at number 5 for me. Number 4 is Yolanda. And Yolanda, she is a healer. I was not thoroughly impressed with her when I used her in beta, but I did use her a lot more once I got her ascended. She became a much more usable character, and I don't know how it is in soft launch, but I love what this does. At the start of every round, unascended grants guard for 1 turn to whichever ally has the lowest health. When guard is triggered or removed, it enters a 4-turn cooldown. And what guard does is, it's like cheat death, essentially. You can't die, and then it restores some health. But a 4-turn cooldown really nullifies her trait. You get her ascended, though, it takes it down to a 2-turn cooldown. Massive, massive difference. She becomes so much more viable. I was tempted to put this one higher, but I feel 4 is a good space for it. So Yolanda, with her Divine Mentor Ascension, coming in at 4. Staying in Free Cities, number 3 is Imogen. And I really like Imogen's Ascension. Applies Moonlight at the beginning of each turn. Unascended, grants this character a unremovable Moonlight upon receiving an Defensive Pierce Up. Max 20 stacks. So Defensive Pierce Up is +2 defense. It goes up to 20. But Moonlight expands Moonlight, grants a joint attack alongside the attack of any ally. You get it once. The Ascension applies 3 Moonlights at the beginning of every turn. So essentially, every other time your teammates go, with this Ascension, you're attacking again. I love it. So, I love the fact that this, yes, you got to have that caveat of defensive pierce up, but Imogen is such a niche character. Having that Ascension really makes her a lot more playable. It changes her, in my opinion, completely to a different character. Maybe I'm way off. That's fine. Tell me I'm wrong. That's cool. But there's a huge difference between having an unascended and an ascended Imogen. And having her ascended is massive. Number 2, Nicholas. Now, I have Nicholas. I don't have him ascended. Nicholas is not a massive damage dealer. He can put out some damage, but he's not a Hector. He's not a Maul Hex. He's not an Abandon, right? When it comes to like bosses and things like that. But before I get to his ability, his basic ability deals 100% damage to an enemy. When this enemy's health, if the enemy's health is below 50% after the attack, he grants a bonus attack to all enemies, which deals 50% damage. So you attack somebody under 50% with his basic, he goes again at an AoE at 50% damage. Not that much, but then let's take a look at his Ascension. Lead the Way, unascended. Grants this character the speed of the fastest ally, +1 at the start of the battle. So he's always, and this only happens at the start of the battle, but he's going to go first, right? No matter what. At the start of the battle. Then he can do his basic ability after you use his ultimate, because his ultimate, you know, you got that cooldown, you're going to be using your basic quite a bit. So you get that extra damage. But it's only once at the start of the battle. You ascend him, it's the start of every round. You're going to be getting an extra bonus attack. So essentially you're giving yourself 50% more damage at the start of every round that you use his basic ability. Because he's always going to be the first one of your team members to go. It really changes Nicholas as a whole character. He does so much more damage. He helps out quite a bit. He is very, very, very useful. And you'll watch his damage numbers almost double with this Ascension. And I just think it changes him as a character completely. Rounding out the list, coming in at number 1 is Maul Hex. And I think Maul Hex Ascended is just, hands down to me, a completely different champion. So let's take a look at it. Unascended, he attacks it. Any attack by an ally affected by attack up against any enemy reduces this character's abilities cooldowns by 1. Ascended. Any attack by an ally buffed with a positive effect reduces this character's abilities cooldowns by 1 turn. It's massive. It's huge. So you think, Zeri, it's just attack up and then it's positive. Okay, you put him with a Connor or Joseph and he's fine, right? You're right, he is. But that's only 2 turns. You put him with somebody else who provides a buff to your team along with a Winstrix maybe. Gives you speed. You know, for arena. You can put him with anybody that puts on a buff and you're reducing that cooldown. It changes pairings, it changes team comps. Maul Hex becomes a more viable champion in this game. And that's why I don't really have to explain it much more than that. Any positive effect. You put him in your endless trial team and you get that one artifact that gives you a positive status effect at the start of your turn. Doesn't have to be attack up. You can ride this guy through your endless trial. It just changes the way you play this game. It could be heal over time. You put him with a Blackhorn, he always has heal over time. Huge. You put the spell on that gives you heal over time. Positive effect. Reducing his cooldown. It is massive. That's why Mulhex is my number one Legendary Ascension in the game. So my YouTube family, there it is. There is my top 10 Legendary Ascensions in Awaken Chaos Era soft launch. So, let me know down in the comments down below what you thought of this list. Did I leave anybody off? Was I way off? Am I misinterpreting somebody? Please let me know. I'm going to do this again for the Epics and the Elites. I think it's a fun thing to do. I had a lot of fun making it. So, let me know what you guys think. I'll see you on the next one. I love you. I'm out.